Welcome to another episode of the Bad Ideas Garage. It has been a while, but rest assured, there have been many bad ideas that have happened in our garage. This is our 2005 Mercedes-Benz E320 Wagon, and it's got quite the story. Sadly, the time with our family is coming to an end. More on that later, but today what I wanted to do is talk about the story of this lovely wagon and then do a review of this W211.
Still drives!
And stops!
And it stops!
The story of this particular wagon starts back in August of 2000. Dale, one of the other parts of the Bad Ideas Garage, you probably remember him, has a neighbor up in the Portland area that had this car that was parked next to their house, and we wanted to have one last project before we went back into our busy work season. And so we went up there and we did film a video of this. We had to daisy chain two batteries together and we saw the state of this car. It had been very clearly sitting for quite some time, but after a little bit of time and a little bit of power, this car started right up. Here's a video of that. I'm gonna try to start this beautiful machine. Hasn't run for
A little
while. We are gonna see what happens.
All right, dashboard's lit up. That's good.
Now, thankfully, this car did start and it moved about 100 feet down the driveway on its own, and Dale, being the smart guy that he is, parked it at the top of a hill and the trailer was at the bottom of a hill because this car promptly shut off and then would not start again. With a little bit of creativity and some help from the previous owner, we got it onto a trailer, got it down to Dale's Bad Ideas Garage, and he replaced the fuel pump and did a transmission service. And then from there, we wanted to sell it. I don't see these very often. I know that Mercedes did make lots of them. You could have this with either the V6 like this one or with a V8. They even made an AMG version of this, which is particularly rare, but we just wanted to see it back on the road, and so after we had done a little bit of service to the car, we wanted to sell it. That's where the story gets really weird. So after giving the previous owner a couple of months to find the title, we decided to go and file for a new one. And so in the end of December, right before the tag moratorium was ending, I called the DMV. And after some back and forth, we realized that this lovely car had a lien on it. And not just any lien, very, very fun story. So it turns out that at some point, this car was used in a crime. And so what happened was that the bookkeeper of the previous owner, the company was actually title pawning cars that they did not legally own, or that's the working theory. And so it turned out that a bank actually owns this car. And so it was just one of those things where it's like, oh great, one of the things that we have to wait for. And so then we couldn't really drive the car anymore. Now, thankfully, we do now have all of the paperwork that we need to get the title for this car, and so I'll be driving this car for a couple more months when I have to wait for my DMV appointment. But finally, we have all of the paperwork to get the title for this car. It was just a very, very long time for us to be able to go and get that title. So when we realized that we were going to have this wagon for some extra time while we waited for all the paperwork, we made a couple other improvements. First thing was these tires. So our friends over at AR, they're up in the Portland metropolitan area. Definitely check them out if you are into BMW, want to customize your ride. They do a lot of different racing events and they have really cool race cars that they race. They had a set of used tires from one of their race cars and they said on Facebook Marketplace, hey, $100 for a set of tires. And the tires that came with this car were obviously very, very old and really, really sketchy. And so we put a set of used race car tires, yes, used race car tires on this car. So you can see some of the stickers are still there. Now, these tires don't exactly work the best when it's cold, when it's wet, and here in Oregon, as you can tell, it is both of them. And so these tires are not the best, but as my daily driver, it actually worked really, really well, as long as the traction control stayed on. Fun fact, there was a time that I actually drove this car up to a trailhead and I didn't do enough research on the trailhead, and I had to drive this car in the snow up a Forest Service road. And again, with the traction control on, this car did absolutely fine, which is surprising because these tires, not designed to do any of that. So I drove these tires as my daily driver for quite some time, and it was lots of fun. This car, once the tires are warm, actually road holds very, very well. So the overall body condition of this car is really not that bad. It's obviously still very dirty. We haven't really washed it since we got it. Just a little bit here and there to make sure that I was okay daily driving it, but otherwise, it does need a detail. Things like the lamps are foggy. There's little imperfections here and there. This door was actually replaced by Dale. The door had a massive scrape on it. It looked like it got hit by a tractor. And again, these rims are not perfect by any means. And then in the interior is pretty dirty as well. We didn't detail it or anything, just gave it a vacuum when I first started driving it. All of this stuff in here does work. It just is all a little bit beat up. So hopping into it, I did like this W211 interior quite a bit. We had one of these when I lived in Germany, actually, and so it was really good to see what this was like once again to be in a W211. And so in here you have a lot of standard features you get on a lot of Mercedes products of the era. So automatic climate control, it works really well. The stereo generally works. The navigation system is hilariously out of date, but that's to be expected. And again, all of this stuff is just kind of worn out. Does have a sunroof, which is great. No heated seats, which is too bad. It's very helpful here in Oregon, but let's give this a start. So it sounds really good. I actually really like the sound of this engine. Let's give it a couple revs and hear what it sounds like. So this is one of my favorite messages where it tells us upon startup that service has been exceeded by 36,000 miles. Yeah, so this car hasn't been serviced in quite some time, but it really does run really, really well. So other features in this car, it does have automatic lights. You can't really tell what they are, but I have another one just as a reference, but this has automatic lights, which work really, really well as the automatic wipers. Those also work really well. The cruise control works great. And again, I mentioned the climate control, the stereo. Stereo sometimes doesn't work. I love this button that you can put the rear headrests down. Those will pop those down so you can have more rear visibility, which is really cool, and really standard stuff like the rear windshield wiper. Heading into the back, this back seat is really, really spacious. I also really like that there's actually little window shades that you can pull up over there. It's really, really nice back here. Very well proportioned. There's also child seat anchors. I did carry my kid around in this car. Maybe you saw him in the other video that I posted over the summer, but these seats do go down. There's a cargo cover that works really, really well. Actually, this seat, when it goes down, it moves the front seat forward automatically. Could not figure out why that seat was stuck in that position, but yes, it does know what this position is. So it moves the front seat forward so these seats can go all the way down. And back here, there's just absolutely a massive, massive space back here. It's really, really great to be able to transport stuff. Again, it's very dirty back here. I know it is, but this car actually has a secret, and I'll show you in just a second. Alrighty, opening up this trunk lid. So back here, again, there's tons and tons of space. This actually has a third row seat. Yes, there is a third row seat. Under here, a rear facing third row seat, and I'm gonna put that up for you in just a second. Here it goes. So yeah, I can't really get in this. It's definitely designed for kids. I love that it has its own cup holders, because a lot of Mercedes are not really known for having cup holders, but this one, it has its own cup holders. It also has its own headrests that sit over here. So yes, this is a real third row seat if you're maybe 10 years old. One last thing about this car is that it actually has soft touch closing, which is pretty cool on the back. So if you don't close it all the way, the car will close it for you. So this does have air suspension in the back that works really well. long story, but that part is actually warranted from Mercedes for quite some time. But because there's that, maybe they decided it'd be a good idea to have a soft touch close, but only for the rear. Some, of course, really fancy cars have that on their regular doors, but for this, it's in the back. It makes tons of noise, but if you soft close it, it will close the rest of the way for you. And finally, the engine. This is the M112 V6 engine. And I have the M113 V8 in my C43 Ute. Both of them are attached to the 722.6 5-speed automatic transmission. It's very, very reliable. I actually think the V6 is pretty good on power. It feels really good. This car was really never designed to be really sporty. We'll take you out on a drive in just a second. But it's actually quite fun to drive, even though it's a big wagon. Obviously, the V8 and the C43 is a lot more fun. That one has near 300 horsepower. This one's about 220 horsepower. And at 255,000 miles, still makes some good power. Get a good look at this engine. It's definitely not perfect, but it's actually pretty dry under here. There's a couple of small oil leaks on the valve cover gaskets, which is not atypical for these vehicles. This fun plastic engine cover is really interesting. But yeah, this is what it looks like. Alrighty, now it's time to give this car a drive. I'm just gonna take a quick spin around our town. It's a beautiful day here in Albany, Oregon. It's not raining, but yeah, let's give some juice. Oh, my tailgate's open. So that soft touch thing that I told you all about that was really cool. Yeah, I'll be right back. No warning lights. Yes, I know that my service is overdue. All right, put this car in drive, and here we go. A little bit of wheel spin there. Okay. Not bad. So that was about 0 to 50, and it makes a good noise. Not the best, not the worst, but again, this car was never really designed to be a sports car. It's just a really good overall vehicle. So I'm cruising around. It's about 40 miles an hour around town, and it's just nice and smooth. It's very, very quiet. The suspension is definitely very, very gentle. There is a sport mode on the transmission and a comfort mode. Comfort mode basically starts the transmission in second gear, slower to shift. I leave it in sport mode all the time just because it starts in first gear. Again, the transmission's really slow to shift anyways, but it gets the job done, and again, it's got lots of miles on it. I will say that this was quite the comfortable car to commute. My commute is about 25 minutes, a combination of city and highway, but once you're out on the highway, it's just really nice and smooth in this car. And you can't hear, you can't really feel anything. I'm using my phone's microphone, so maybe there's a little bit of ambient noise, but it's just very, very quiet in here. It's so quiet that I would play podcasts right off my phone without needing to use earbuds or plug it into the stereo. There is an aux cable, never really messed with it just because it was so quiet in this interior. I just popped it on the dash and I went for it. These seats are definitely very, very comfortable. If I were to keep this car, I would probably want to spruce them up a little bit. They are in pretty rough shape, but they're very comfortable. They're very supportive. Really, really a nice, comfortable ride. I have low back problems and neck problems, and I could be in this car for hours and not have any problems. If I were to keep this car, definitely replace these brakes. The brakes have really good stopping power, but they're pulsing pretty hard. Definitely would replace those brakes. It's fast. Well, relatively speaking. Yeah, I'd probably just replace those brakes, and I'd clean up the carpets, maybe get a carpet kit because I'm not sure that these carpets can be fixed. But yeah, it's nice. I got a sunroof up above, and Tons of space in the back. Actually, we have an old dog, and he loves this car because he has the entire rear space that he can just lay out, and it's just huge. And sadly, in December, he had a series of seizures, and he's like 80 pounds. He's a pretty big dog. He's a pretty old dog. And I had to use this car because this car was the one car that he could just have all of the space to get over to the emergency vet. He wants to go on a walk, doesn't he? Want to go on a walk, buddy? Yeah. All right, let's go, Bear. Alrighty, I'm back home, and that means it's the end of our video today. Thanks for hanging out with the Bad Ideas Garage once again, and please stay tuned. We'd love to have you like and subscribe to our channel. We will be coming out with videos more frequently than we did in 2020 towards the end. We have a really great video coming up on a Suzuki Aero SX hatchback that we got for free. It's all-wheel drive. It's pretty cool. And if anyone knows the history of the Suzuki Aero, you would also know that this car is the Suzuki Liana, which was used in Top Gear's reasonably priced car segment. So that video is coming up. We hope to have that in a couple weeks. The C43 AMG Ute has some amazing upgrades that have been done to it recently. I just saw it for the first time actually in a couple months, and it looks really great. That video is going to be coming up. And the 1981 Subaru has a forged engine in it now. So forged internals and an EJ22 block that has been bored out to either 2.3 or 2.4. Not quite sure, but that video is going to be coming out as well once I get that car back. The guy working on it's had it for almost a year now. So those videos are all coming up. Make sure and like and subscribe. Thanks for hanging out.